Hello, everybody. Tommy, World at War Comics. I'm very excited for the next interview that you are going to see. I had the absolute pleasure of hanging out with Dinesh Samdasani, and he was able to give me access to Derek Kolstad, who is the writer and creator of the John Wick series, and Robert Venditti to release the new story that they are working on together. So, Derek, who has written John Wick, Nobody, which was another fabulous movie. He came up with this idea of a story called Planet Death. And he took it to Dinesh. Dinesh, obviously going to Robert Venditti, who is one of my favorite writers, brought these two together, and they have put something that I think is going to be absolutely amazing together. I was able, by sitting there and interviewing these two gentlemen, get a copy of the first 10 pages of Planet Death. And then I got all the signatures, including Tomas, the artist. I mean, everybody's on this thing. Absolutely incredible. Even Dinesh signed it for me, which was absolutely incredible. But just to give you a small glimpse of what we're looking at, and I could show this because this has already been circulating the internet. Look at Tomas's work right here. Now, this is in grayscale. It will be in color when it eventually does release. But just to give you a snippet of what is coming. And then at the back of the book, there's all kinds of other titles that will be coming out this year and next year. But without further ado, here's the time that I got to spend with Derek and Robert. I hope you enjoy, and I will be back after the interview. Thanks, everybody. All right, everybody, welcome to World at War Comics. I have two amazing guests, one of my favorite writers, which Rob, you already know, Robert Venditti. And then I'm with Mr. Derek Cole. I was going to try and say your name like you always say how Keanu says it, but there's just no way it's going to come out like that. But
Derek Kolstad.
Derek Kolstad. Yeah, I was going to try it, but it's just going to be terrible. But it's a pleasure to meet you for the first time, be with you again, Rob. But man, what an awesome career. I'd love just to talk a little bit about that. As we all know, Derek, John Wick, the storytelling that you did around that, the first three movies I know you were very much a part of, and then 4 and 5 kind of went in a different area. And I think you were still part of the executive team for the Continental, if I'm not correct. No.
But at the same time, like, you know, it's this thing I created, and it's named after my grandfather.
Yeah.
And so ultimately, you sit back then as a fan and you just root for it, you know? And the other thing too is, as a creative, you dream of writing for a living or doing something that isn't in a cubicle somewhere. And when you finally get to do it, now you get to work hard at working hard, man. It's awesome.
Yeah. I'm sure you got a lot more coming too.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And then Rob, so I know you obviously from your amazing Hawkman run, which is one of my favorites, and then obviously EXO, which won some awards with Mr. Dinesh over here. What is it like now coming back and being part of a team that you were kind of part of before? I mean, does it bring back a lot of nostalgia? Are you pretty excited to work with some of the same people that you had, you with Tomas?
Yeah, well, this is my first time getting a chance to work with Tomas. I've always wanted to. This is the first chance to do that with Planet Death. But as far as working with Dinesh and Peter and you know, some of the people who were at Valiant back in the day, you know, we never really lost touch. You know, we were always talking, and we had a great time building what we built over there. And you know, writing can be pretty isolating. You know, you're just kind of by yourself doing whatever. And like all the jobs I always had in my life, you know, retail or restaurants, whatever, there's a lot of people around. And so I really try to establish relationships and friendships with the people I work with. So when they were doing Bad Idea and they talked to me about it back in 2019, I was immediately on board, you know, just not just for the aspect that I would get to work with them all again, and I had got such a good experience at Valiant, but also I know from working from them, you know, the sort of creative freedom that you get and those kinds of things as well. And I was looking forward to that.
That's awesome. And then Derek, for you, you know, this is not your first forte, obviously, in the comics or in the comic world. I think you had 2 episodes of the Falcon and Winter Soldier that you were part of.
Oh yeah.
Right, on the TV side for Disney Plus. What does it feel like being part of this Bad Idea team?
Oh, that's a joy.
Yeah.
I mean, a lot of times when you talk about collaboration, it ends up being a push and pull, a little bit more of a fight. This one has been, I see what you're doing there. How about this? Oh, I see what you're doing there. Oh, and it became, you know, someone said it earlier, just a lot of grins and a lot of smiles of going, most of my job is hard work, but this one was fun. It's still hard work, but it's the better kind of hard work. And the other thing too is I am new to comic books. I am just kind of listening in on all of these conversations because it's a world, of course I grew up with reading them, but the business side of it and the development side is very new to me. My first love is film and then television, but this process, and especially working with him and with Dinesh and with Bad Idea, has been like, dude, just bring your toys in the sandbox, let's play.
And I don't know if you've gotten into a lot of the writing side of the comic book world yet. Obviously you're an expert, I think, at that side of it. Is there differences between writing a screenplay and then putting something together in a comic from what you've seen so far?
They're very different, and in fact, this relationship began with, I had this treatment, and I looked at the comic book stylings and how that process works, and kind of got glazed over eyes. And Dinesh said, would you be willing to partner? And I was like, yes, please, you know. And this is his point of the spear. You know, I was there from a story background, from a storytelling element, and we just drafted off of each other. He understands the structure and that tone of voice and the mechanics of comic books far more than I do. And so, you know, we both let each other do our thing and ended up just rooting for each other in our thing, you know?
Yeah, that's excellent. And then Rob, on your side, I'm not sure how much collaboration has been able to take place so far, but have you noticed anything that you could add to your repertoire as a writer from a screenplay standpoint and vice versa?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know from a screenplay standpoint, but definitely from the way he, you know, works with story in terms of creative mind. You know, as far as Planet Death goes, we've written the whole thing at this point. You know, the first issue is pretty much drawn. I think the whole thing will be out in March. So yeah, we spent all the time doing those issues and just like watching, I don't know, seeing how he, you know, I was saying earlier, really simple. The way he would give this note, and it would be just a handful of words, but it would be something that really sort of was really impactful and monumental, you know. And seeing the way he structured story and thought about mythology building and world building and things like that from his original document that I saw, it's just always, again, writing comics can be kind of isolating. Any form of writing can. So when you have a chance to collaborate with somebody and see what their process is and how their creativity works, because it's going to be different for everybody, you know. It was really enjoyable to see and to learn from, and you know, would love to do it again. You know? Yeah.
So, you know, as a fan of Valiant, when you were writing EXO, I think there was a lot of excitement within the Valiant fandom that eventually there would be some sort of an EXO movie that would have been made at a certain point. And you never know down the future. But when we're looking at Planet Death and then knowing that you're involved, I mean, as an average fan, seeing you two come together, the assumption is as this builds, is there an opportunity, and is that kind of the goal of that maybe this might become the screenplay for something live action, maybe a series?
I'd love it. We'd all love it. But I think the reality is we all, as fans of this medium, understand when someone's just trying to play that IP play for film or TV. And I want to make sure that what we provide the audience here in and of itself is a good story with good characters. And if it's all there was, you'd be fucking happy for it.
Exactly.
Now, of course, when you look at film and TV, and you know, even though I love the original idea, a lot of what I do is adapt. Yes, you know, but only if it makes sense and only if it's better for the comic book, not worse for it. We've all seen that go both ways, you know, in adaptation. So to me, as long as you can retain the heart and the soul of what's in that original IP medium, then we're doing it right. And so, yeah, it's the more of the late night over a bourbon, hey, wouldn't it be cool when? And I think it will be cool when. But right now we're focusing on making this series the best it can be.
Yeah, that's awesome. And then when you're going back and forth and there's this collaboration on the story, I don't know how you do it from a screenplay standpoint. I've seen you in other interviews where you talk about action scenes. Do you actually kind of sketch out what you would like to see? Because sometimes I've met writers that will kind of sketch out like maybe this is how it would be, and then you give it to your artist and then they make magic out of that. I was wondering if anything that like that is happening with the comic book side of it with you.
I think we both answer this, but on the film side, a lot of times I'm writing the action for the reader, right? And the second unit, the stunt guys, those whole crew see what I'm doing there, and more of they take it as a macro lens through which to do it. And I'm always so giddy when one of those action sequences in the screenplay makes it into the movie. I wrote less action in this one because even in talking with him, I wasn't quite sure how my words, would affect the screenplay and the comic book. So I'll have him answer that one.
Please.
I'm trying to think how to answer this. You're asking about action and
action. Like, do you ever like put a little sketch or like?
I
just
don't
to
do
make
it.
sure?
No, yeah. So like Matt Kent does that sometimes, right?
Oh.
Because he's an artist by trade. I'm not an artist. I've never been a good artist. I'm like stick figures all the way, So I try to describe it in words. What I think I try to do more so is communicate the emotion of it, And so Tomas Giorello is a phenomenal artist. He knows what it looks like when a character punches another character, the physicality of it, right? But I'm trying to communicate the emotionality of it. And so the character acting is what it is. What kind of fighter? Is he a brawler? Is he an MMA fighter? Like you're trying to describe things in those kinds of strokes and then let the artist kind of take it from there. But yeah, so I don't really sketch anything out like that. I wish I could, but that's just not, part of my skill set, But it's always fun when you get the pages and they come in and you see what an artist like Tomas has done with it, and it's always, surpasses what you had in your own head, and so that's part of the fun of the collaboration of comics. You're so involved in the story, and we're talking about story, and we're sending scripts back and forth, and we're doing revisions, doing all these kinds of things, and we really know every in and out of the whole story, but yet when you turn over to the artist, you get surprised, It's really fun when you can be surprised by your own story, so.
Absolutely, especially with an artist like Tomas.
Oh yeah.
And everything's going to be in grayscale in this issue?
So the preview that we've put out is grayscale for right now. It's just sort of an advanced preview.
Yeah.
It's not even lettered, but it will be full color when it comes out. I would love for them to do a grayscale version as well, because I think this is Tomas's first time ever inking himself. It looks absolutely phenomenal. But yeah, so it'll be full color and lettered and all those kind of things. Right now we're just teasing some of the original art. And if you see, the art, or if you post it with this interview, I mean, each panel has like 10 billion lines, so he's really, he's an artist I've always wanted to work with.
Yeah.
I'm a huge fan of his work and stories he's done in the past. He's collaborated with Josh Dysart, Matt Kent, other people who's, as writers, I really admire too. This was my first chance to get to work with him. And, I really feel like this is some of his best work, so it's wonderful to see.
There's one scene, and all it is a ship, and the detail that is in that art.
It's the first image we saw.
Yeah. Is it really? I mean, what a first image to see. You could stare at that for like an hour and probably find different things.
Yeah.
And just the detail is insane.
I posted it on. I asked if I could post it on social, and Bad Idea said yeah, and I did. And like other writers and artists would just respond with like, "Whoa." Like what even is that, so, and that's just one of the opening things, and it just gets bigger from there, it's really it's rare to be in a position where you have like something hitting on all cylinders like this. It's really fun.
And then can I ask, where did the idea for Corporal Scott come from, and does it have any kind of meaning outside of the comic book? We know that John Wick, it was called something different and it became John Wick, and that obviously has a very close relationship to you since that's your grandfather's name.
Yeah.
Anything like that with Corporal Scott?
No, honestly, he came about in my head at taking, Sergeant Rock, and Dr. What's his name? Who's the guy with the bronze skin? Dr. Strange? No. Anyway,
Doctor, I don't know, bronze skin, I don't know.
But a lot of the characters who are always the Jack Ryans of the world, the James Bonds of the world, again, like Outlaw Josey Wales, these kinds of characters, and just going, look, these are simple characters on the surface with a singular journey, until you realize, no, they're incredibly complex, because one of the things I talk about in the characters I love to watch, and the ones that we love to create, is that they have will and they have empathy. These aren't murder machines. And the reason they survive the way they do is they read the room, And even in a comic book, it's amazing how difficult it is, but rewarding to create a character who speaks less and does more. And one of the things I've said a couple of times, especially in the artwork here and work with these guys, is it's a still image that moves. And even though it doesn't move on the page, it still moves. And it really just kind of catapults the hero's journey.
And is there like a weird feeling?
Doc Savage.
Doc Savage, okay.
Yeah.
Is there a kind of a, I don't know if weird's the right word, but what is the feeling of going from something live action where you're seeing what you wrote play out to a comic book format where it's still being played out, but it's being played out by panel by panel? It's a little bit more slow motion.
It's surreal.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, there's an element of, one of the things I always talk about is in any kind of production, regardless of what the medium's going to be, you have to trust the people. I would say in this medium, you have to trust the people more than anything else, because in many respects, the artist is his own DP, his own director, his own star. He's all these roles that I work with, where that role is independent of one another, and yet at the same time, there is this sense of, I not only do I see what you're doing there, but I feel where you're going there, and you know, there is a lot of us in those pictures because there was a lot of us that we put into this thing, and that goes for everybody in Bad Idea.
That's awesome. Well, congratulations. I mean, if I could just show the cover, I think everyone's already seen it, but man, Planet Death looks absolutely fabulous. I think a lot of fans are very excited to be at the panel tomorrow. And I think we should also mention the current Kickstarter that's going on that's doing quite well. I think there's about 20 days left, if I'm not mistaken. Got tankers. So congratulations on that, Rob. And if you back tankers and you're at San Diego Comic-Con tomorrow, you could be getting a copy of the preview. So anybody that's out there that watches this, man, make sure you get your hands on that, because what a great opportunity to get a head start on Planet Death, and
a lot of other things in there too.
So there's some
you can really get a glimpse
back there too, right?
You can really get a glimpse of a lot of the stuff Bad Idea's got planned coming up with a lot of creators that I think people will be surprised by. So
would expect nothing less from Bad Idea. So thank you, gentlemen. It's been a pleasure meeting both of you. Until next time, I hope you all have a great weekend, and I hope the panel goes superb tomorrow for both of you.
Appreciate it, dude. Enjoy the con.
Thank you. Well, there you have it, man. What an opportunity it was to be able to sit down with Derek and Rob and talk about their new amazing title, Planet Death. Man, when this comes out, you got to get all over it. The art from Tomas is absolutely insane. The detail and everything that Bad Idea is doing right now, incredible. My next interview, though, is from Joshua Dysart. He has a comic titled Habitat that is coming out, and you don't want to miss that interview. And actually, Tomas joins him, so you'll be able to meet Tomas, who worked on Planet Death. And we're going to be asking all kinds of amazing questions about Habitat, what it's about, and then talk about how crazy detail and how much excitement Tomas had working on Planet Death with both Derek and Rob. So don't miss the second half of this interview session that I was able to sit down with Bad Idea. Again, I want to thank you, Dinesh, for making this possible. And for all you fans, make sure you're following Bad Idea on all social media. Make sure you go to Bad Idea Corp on the internet, and make sure that you're staying up to date with all the news and where you could find their titles. All right, everyone. Until next time, thanks. Have a great week.